Solo Leveling, Ragnarok. By Dang Du. Chapter 156. If someone on the streets of South Korea were to be stopped and asked who Baek Yunho was, the responses would be widely varied indeed. He was an S-rank hunter, the guild master of the White Tiger Guild, and the greatest beast transformation hunter in South Korea. But if they were asked again, this time about what kind of person Yunho was, the answers would be surprisingly uniform. He was heroic. The owner of a large guild, an S-rank hunter, there were plenty of hunters all over the world who could be described in such terms. But none of them were as serious about the safety of the citizens or willing to put in as much effort as Baek Yunho was. Hunters were motivated by money, and all of them became rich through hunting. Such utilitarianism was by no means a bad thing in today's capitalist world, of course. But it was also natural that when a guild, despite the way the world was willing to give up on completely reasonable profits and do everything it could to save the citizens it loved, it would receive praise from the people. The recent villain escape was a good example. This was a case that all hunters had mostly abandoned since it wasn't worth the time investment. Only the White Tiger Guild had gotten involved, throwing everything they had at it. It was this that made people respect Baek Yunho, and that was why he was a proud South Korean hero that everyone was thankful for. However, Yunho hadn't been like this from the start. When he had first awakened as a hunter, the ability he awakened had been none other than that of turning into a magic beast. This skill allowed him to gain wild energy by transforming his body to be reminiscent of the beasts. In the early days of the Great Cataclysm, people had not looked upon him or his skill with much fondness. It wasn't only Yunho, any hunter who had the same skill was shunned in the same way. The reason was logical and natural. It was frightening that they could transform into the very magic beasts that poured out of the gates. Who knows when they'll suddenly turn into real magic beasts? First there were the gates. Are people going to turn into beasts now? What if they suddenly turn and eat us? Shouldn't we execute them before that happens? No, they're still human on the inside, at least at the moment. They should be incarcerated, at least. Countless concerns regarding the beast transformation hunters had ravaged the internet at the time. This continued until the Hunters Association came into being and Wu Jinchul began to show public support for such hunters. Even with Jinchul's guarantees, however, people continued to be worried about these hunters. The problem was that even the beast transformation hunters themselves had such doubts. Who knew if they would suddenly lose their minds and turn into full magic beasts? Nobody could make guarantees against such a thing. That was why they were always ashamed of their ability, always on edge, just in case they lost their sanity. Yunho was no different. He had such a massive body, after all, and his face was so fierce that he looked ready to kill magic beasts with a single swipe of his hand at the slightest provocation. His looks were what had made people always fear him. There was someone who had given him courage, however. Yunho. Before the Great Cataclysm, Yunho had been a firefighter all his life. When he looked up, he noticed his most respected senior, Captain Sung Ilwon, smiling down warmly at him with a hand on his shoulder. Yes, Captain. Yunho looked up into Ilwon's eyes. The hand on his shoulder was hard, covered with old calluses. The captain was a veteran in his field, perhaps comparable to a great commander. He was a monumental firefighter who was always reliable and extremely capable in the event of a disaster. Ilwon looked down at Yunho and gave advice in his usual calm, trust-inspiring voice. It doesn't matter if you awakened or gained an ability. Nothing changes. No matter what people may say, you are still a firefighter, my junior serviceman, Baek Yunho. So do as you always have done. Sung Ilwon smiled, his face covered with patches of dark soot. Save people. The words were like a jolt of lightning to Yunho's system. Frankly, anybody could say such words, but the person speaking was Captain Sung Ilwon, a man who had struggled for decades, putting his life on the line for the same purpose each time. Those words had come from the lips of the man who had carried out the very same advice himself, and Yunho had watched him from close proximity. No further clarification was needed between them. You're a firefighter. The captain grinned, and Yunho finally gave a confident smile. That was the beginning of a new South Korean hero, the S-rank hunter Baek Yunho. He immediately went to the most famous guild in South Korea, the Fiend Guild, where he began to tear magic beasts apart using his skills at the forefront of every battle. Even his companions were afraid of his terrifying prowess. But it doesn't matter. Yunho didn't care. If he had time to worry about what others thought of him, it was better to kill at least one more magic beast. That meant that he would be doing what was best for the people. I save people. That is all. That was the most important lesson he had learned over the decades while serving under Sung Il-won. That had only been 2 years ago. It had only taken a year for Yunho to earn himself a reputation, and he soon established his own guild under his own name. It was not for the sake of making money, however, in fact, he was after the opposite. The values of the guildmaster of the Fiend Guild, which had chased profits like every other hunter guild, collided with Yunho's. Therefore, he gathered all the beast transformation hunters in the country still struggling with the prejudices leveled against them. He founded the White Tiger Guild, and with that, he began to save citizens in earnest. And there was one reason as to why he had gone so far. "You're a firefighter." The heavy last words that Sung Il-won had said to him were still engraved deep in his heart. Yunho was sobbing loudly. "And so?" "Hick. Captain Sung Il-won. Hick. He told me to become, oh, God." "Okay, I get it. Please, don't. Father, stop crying. The guild members are watching. And blow your nose, would you?" Yunho did as he was told. He had been immersed in telling his old stories, but he took the tissue Miho handed him and blew hard into it. The tears didn't stop flowing from his eyes, however. Miho sighed quietly and handed him an entire roll of toilet paper. Then she turned to Suho with a genuine look of apology. "I'm sorry, Suho. My father has gotten sentimental in his old age." "Yes, well, I understand." Suho looked a little confused. The way Yunho had roared like an animal and come at him with a barrage of attacks seemed heavily at odds with the bawling man in front of him with liquid flowing out of his eyes and nostrils. On the other hand, Suho was somewhat surprised. What an interesting coincidence. Who knew my grandfather knew Baek Yunho? He knew that his grandfather, Sung Il-won, had been a firefighter all his life before he eventually retired. Naturally, he didn't know all of his grandfather's old companions. He had no idea that the famous guild leader had once been his grandfather's subordinate. From Suho's perspective, it was just an interesting fact, and nothing more. But to Yunho, this matter was of far greater importance. The man blew his nose again and cleared his throat awkwardly. "As Suho?" He strutted over clumsily. His tone had changed. He was now extremely cautious, like he was dealing with some object made of fragile glass. "Ahem. It seems there was a slight misunderstanding between us. The grandson of Captain Sung Il-won couldn't possibly have fallen into bad ways." "Of course not." Yunho knew better than anyone what a great man Captain Sung was. In fact, a few words from him had been enough to launch the guild master himself on a lifelong quest to save people. His grandson could not possibly choose the wrong path, he thought. "I must have been mistaken earlier." "That's for sure." Yunho turned a pleading gaze towards Suho and said, "Speaking of which, this would be too trivial a matter for you to never mention to your grandfather, don't you?" "Oh. Come to think of it, I haven't called my grandfather in ages." Suho exclaimed. "What? And no. Hold it. Please, hold that thought." Yunho balked as Suho pulled out his phone. No matter how surprised he was, however, he didn't try to take the phone by force. In fact, he broke out into a sweat and hovered around the young hunter, careful not to touch a hair on his body. Suho gave a mischievous smile and lowered the phone. Yunho was deathly pale as he heaved a sigh, and Suho's grin broadened. In any case, this is good, Suho thought. Now the great Baek Yunho owes me. The more strong companions he had, the better it would be when it came to fighting the followers of Itarim. He had made friends with Thomas Andre recently, but he was usually only active in the United States, and thus it was hard to expect help from him in an emergency. Suho considered how best to utilize Yunho, disrespectful as that might have sounded, and finally came to a decision. "Mr. Beck, I won't call my grandfather, so please relax." "Why eh? Ha ha ha. I knew you wouldn't. You're a generous young man, just like him. But I have a request." "Huh? A request?" Yunho, who had seemed greatly relieved, suddenly looked anxious. Suho's conditions were surprisingly reasonable, however. "Can you find Huang Dongsu for me? He still hasn't appeared, so that probably means we have to go looking for him ourselves." "Huang Dongsu." Yunho's bumbling look vanished, replaced by a cold expression. "Why are you after him? Does a bounty hunter need a reason to hunt villains?" Suho said, holding out his association bounty hunter license. "I see," Yunho said, nodding as he looked at it. He still seemed somewhat bothered. "Leave it to us. We were going to find him anyway. But I do have a question for you." The guildmaster's eyes were suddenly full of doubt again, just like before Ilwan's name was mentioned. If Suho was going after Dongsu, it meant he was confident he could deal with an S-rank hunter. If that was the case, why was he remaining an ostensible C-rank hunter, hiding his power? "Will you kill Huang Dongsu yourself if he is found?" Yunho asked directly. Suho cocked his head, seemingly puzzled. No? I'd be happy if you killed him, of course. It's only right that an S-rank villain be dealt with by S-rank hunters." "Oh, that's what you meant," Yunho said, casting his doubts aside. But Suho's next words made his eyes go wide again. "But if you do kill him, please hang on to his body." "Huh? Why do you need his body?" "Oh, I just want to take a look at it. It won't take long." Captain. What kind of grandson do you have here?" The guildmaster realized he should probably give the old man a call. "My beloved grandson Heartsuit." He stared at the picture on the captain's profile in silence. Ilwan was enjoying a peaceful life of retirement, and his profile was filled with love for his grandson. It only confused Yunho more. Chapter 157. The internet was in an uproar again, as per usual. Breaking, case closed. The Great Jisan prison escape. Breaking, all 500 villains defeated. South Korea is safe. In Death Report, we ask the White Tiger Guild, who defeated the villains. Interview, Vice Guildmaster Beck Miho creates ripples with statement, he is a hero. People were just as excited as they'd ever been as they saw the news flooding the internet. Holy cow. This can't be real. It wasn't the White Tiger Guild that defeated the villains? What does this mean? Who else could have gotten so many of them? Can you even read? Someone else dealt with the villains, and the White Tiger Guild only handled the aftermath. So who was it? It was one person, whoever it was. LOL, this is nuts. So just one hunter wiped them all out? Okay. I'm starting to feel that this one hunter should also be classified as a villain. So he's like a mass murderer or something? The reactions of the public could be divided into two categories. It was a good thing, of course, that the villains of Jisan prison had been killed off. Whoever had done it deserved praise, no doubt about it. The problem was that there were just too many that had been killed. He killed 500 fellow human beings in a day. Whoever it is, he can't be normal. He's like a psychopath or something, at least. But they were villains. That's okay, isn't it? So villains don't even deserve to be called humans, is that it? Villains have rights. /S. Fact number 1, all the human rights groups that claimed this are now dead. Fact number 2, they were all killed by the villains that they secretly gave refuge to. Related link, I killed them because they were ridiculous. Related link, who do they think they are, trying to protect us? They're not even awakened. At one point, there had been many groups that fought for the supposed rights of villains. But because of everything the villains had done since then, most people tended to accept the Hunters Association's definition of villains, humanoid magic beasts. Still, there was a certain line beyond which things just felt excessive. Let me get this off my chest. I mean, 500 people? That's a bit much. If he's that strong, surely he could have found a way to spare their lives and send them back to prison. LOL, we got ourselves an armchair saint right here. What if they escape again? Are you going to bring in? Well, who the hell is this hunter, anyway? Why won't they tell us? He's a hero. Are you serious? Would you honestly tell people who he was right now? The public should be praising him to the skies, but they're calling him a mass murderer instead, haha. And Hwang Dong-suk died, too. He's probably eager to hide his identity just in case Hwang Dong-soo wants revenge. LOL, Hwang Dong-soo is scary. That I can understand. It was late at night, and Hwang Dong-soo, the S-rank villain, stopped short in his hideout as he read the internet news. He was looking at a list of the villains who had been killed in the recent incident. C-rank villain Hwang Dong-suk, deceased. Huh. His lips, which had been firmly clamped shut, broke into a grin, exposing his white teeth. The news had left him flabbergasted and incredulous. He's really dead? Hwang Dong-suk was his brother, with whom he'd parted ways with years ago. This was the same brother who had awakened out of the blue, cussed at Dong-soo for being useless, and left him behind without a second thought. That was why Dong-soo had never considered a reconciliation, even after becoming an S-rank hunter himself. That didn't mean that he'd wanted to hear news of his death through the news, however. I thought he was living quietly in prison. He suddenly escaped, only to die within 3 days? Because of a single person that killed everyone else, too? Dong-soo hadn't felt the urge to help his brother when he'd heard Dong-suk had escaped. He'd simply ignored the news. Dong-suk was a crafty man, and surely he could manage to hide away just fine. But now he was dead. The least Dong-soo could do for his brother was get revenge. But I have no idea who was responsible. Dong-soo looked up all related articles, but the White Tiger Guild was keeping a tight lid on the identity of this hunter. As someone had said in the comments earlier, it was clear the guild were on their guard against potential revenge. But no secrets are forever, not in this world. Dong-soo grinned and moved his huge body off his bed. A thick gold necklace around his neck clattered. Dong-soo walked out his bedroom door and emerged in the lobby of a fancy mansion. This was once the secret residence of a corrupt politician. Dong-soo had killed him and taken control of it, making it his third hideout. Dong-soo passed through the empty lobby and walked out of the building, making a call. The phone was picked up quickly on the other end. Yes, Hwang Dong-soo. How can I help you? Came a businesslike voice over the line. Dong-soo was direct. I want information. Is it about Hwang Dong-suk's death? The person said immediately. Dong-soo grinned. You're good at your work. Yes, I want to know who killed my brother. I'll pay you as much as you want. We don't need money. But we would like your help with an upcoming project. A project? Yes. A slightly bothersome request has come in recently. Dong-soo frowned. You do realize that I'm on the run from the association? Yes, of course we do. That is why we've chosen a location in the countryside, far away from any city where you could be detected. TSK. Dong-soo tooted unhappily. The voice over the line seemed to have had this request ready in advance. They're devious as all hell. It was thanks to them, however, that he'd managed to evade the association thus far and live in comfort. It's a task that you can handle in no time at all. We'll give you the information you seek as soon as the job is done. Fine. Tell me where it is. Yangpyeong. Not too far from where you are now, as it happens. You have entered the Shadow Dungeon. Suho came home the next day, had breakfast, and entered the Shadow Dungeon immediately. The internet was abuzz because of the Jisan prison incident, but Suho's life hadn't changed at all, thanks to the White Tiger Guild doing its best to keep him out of the public eye. He would not remain anonymous forever, though, since many hunters from the White Tiger Guild had seen him. Regardless of public opinion, his identity would eventually be made public. But it was fully possible to delay this until a point that Suho wanted. Young monarch, greed is strong. If you want to turn him into a shadow soldier, then you must become stronger. I get it. That's why I'm training, right? Huang Dongsu had once been his father's shadow soldier, going by the name of Greed. In order for Suho to turn him into a shadow soldier again, whether it was when they met and fought one day or after the White Tiger Guild killed him, Suho's own stats needed to be ready. Skill, Shadow Extraction Level 2. Authority over shadows. No mana required. Extracts mana from a dying body to create shadow soldiers. The failure rate of extraction increases proportionally with the target's remaining ability points and the time elapsed since their death. Level 2 Effect Shape Transformation. The shape of shadow soldiers can be transformed at will. Number of extractable shadows, 50-50. Shadow extraction has a chance of failing. Suho recalled the chilling experience in Egypt when he tried to extract the venom-toothed sand centipede and failed no less than 2 times. He had nearly had to give up on it completely because the centipede had been too strong for him to kill by himself. I have only 3 chances at extraction. In order to extract an S-rank hunter within that number of attempts, I need to become much stronger than I currently am. That was why Suho had entered Amit's pyramid again to do his daily quests and train for the iron body technique. Whenever he arrived at the pyramid, however, he would always find a mummy that had been forgotten by all but was nonetheless continuing a lonely training regimen all by himself. Ack. Ha ha ha. That's it. Keep on running. Your legs might have turned to dust and your spine crushed to bits, but you can still run. The mummy ran through the maze inside the pyramid, the terrifying laughter of Amit echoing in the background. This mummy was Lim Dog-yoon. His entire body was wrapped in the mummy's bandages as he underwent training from Amit. While it was called training, it was actually closer to torture. Suho was also repeating a daily set routine as his daily quest, but even if the frequency was regular, the intensity was always different. Amit was manipulating the gravitational field to increase the difficulty of Suho's training every time his stats increased. That was why Suho endured harsh pain every single time. However, he was the son of Sung Jinwoo, the monarch of shadows, and he had the leveling system to help him. That meant that his potential was limitless. Dog-yoon, on the other hand, was just an ordinary E-rank hunter. His physical abilities and regeneration were only slightly better than an average human being, as he was one of the weakest of the hunters. There was only one special ability he had access to, and that was running. You don't need push-ups. Just run and run until you are on the verge of death. In fact, if you stop moving, I will literally kill you. Amit shouted. Eek. Feeling Amit's genuine hostility from right behind him, Dog-yoon went deathly pale. He had already greatly surpassed human limits. Even with ragged limbs and a body that was closer to a corpse than a living human's, he kept on running without rest. He managed to survive, even so. The bandages around his body were an evil or rather, useful item that would keep his body from falling apart even if his bones were reduced to a fine powder and his muscles and ligaments were destroyed. I don't think that's how that item is supposed to be used, is it? Suho murmured. What are you saying? Kandiara made this masterpiece expressly for this purpose. Amit said, cackling. Do you know something? I enjoy watching trivial beings struggling to become something greater, just like that one. Most beings will die in the attempt. However, with a very satisfied look on his face, the crocodile gazed at Dog-yoon, who was running through the pyramid despite his critical condition. Surviving that pain, in whatever way possible. That is strength. Suho was compelled to nod. The words held a measure of truth that he could not help but accept. No matter what anybody might say, Dog-yoon was continuing this harsh training of his own free will. As a result, his leg muscles were bulging, looking ready to explode. He had achieved this without any leveling system or status window. He simply continued to run, powered by nothing but the determination to grow stronger. Let's start that daily quest, Amit said. Suho nodded, and soon his training began. Behind them was the newly recruited shadow soldier, Harmakin. He was studying the interior of the pyramid with shining eyes. Don't tell me. Is this place one of Candiaru's? Chapter 158. The Shadow Dungeon, the forlorn, black and white world of slumber. Surprisingly, the buzzing of bees could be heard in this place. How interesting. Arsha, the queen bee, was marveling quietly as she moved about. Is this the world of shadows ruled by the monarch of shadows? It was Arsha's real body that had entered this dungeon. Though her conversation with Suho had been briefly interrupted due to Yunho's rude intervention, Suho had eventually forced her to bring her real body before him. She had been in no position to refuse him, and she'd been forced to comply in the end. The result was her current state. She would be forced to live in the shadow dungeon from now on, taken hostage or, put another way, imprisoned, perhaps. From now on, her body could not leave the dungeon without Suho's permission. She still had some bees outside that she could turn into copies of herself, so she could always use those to keep track of the situation in the outside world, but that was it. Since she was stuck in this world, she could not utilize her full power. All she could do was scout. Not that it's necessarily a bad thing. She hadn't expected it when it was forced on her, but she was actually liking her current situation quite a bit. He was heavy-handed with me, to be sure, but the welfare this provides is better than I expected. Arsha's ultimate goal, naturally, was to inherit the power of Croatia, the monarch of plagues. But her first priority was always survival. In that sense, she couldn't find a safer place than this shadow dungeon. Above all, I don't have to put on an act anymore. I like that. That fact alone was enough to make Arsha content. When she had wandered the dimensional rift and fallen into Earth, she had chosen to mimic humans and meld into human society, acting like a person and seeking to please other people. But that hadn't been adaptation, simply parasitical behavior. It left her feeling ashamed to think that she, a queen bee, must act like a menial human being. No matter how strong Arsha was, she could not defeat all the humans on Earth. That was why it had been necessary to increase the number of underlings and become powerful enough so that she wouldn't need to hide herself any longer. That way, she could rule as a true queen bee. This was no longer the situation, however. In the shadow dungeon, she didn't have to pretend to be a human. That pleased her more than anything else, though there was just one thing that made her nervous: Suho. Her body was trapped here, which meant he could kill her anytime he wanted. No. I could kill you at any time. But provided that you don't displease me, I promise not to do so. I hope this is safe. It had been a very unfair and one-sided agreement. Arsha's eyes trembled with fear as she considered Suho's promise, but there was no way around it. She would just have to do her best not to displease him. Even when she was outside, roaming free, she had been forced on the run because of him. This seems like a good place. Arsha, who'd been buzzing about the shadow dungeon, stopped short at a certain location. It was a secluded place in the dungeon, slightly distanced from Amit's pyramid. After studying the surroundings carefully, she smiled with satisfaction and reached out her hand. Fly, my worker bees. The bees she'd brought with her flew from her body, and she declared solemnly, I command you in the name of Arsha, the queen bee. Get to work. Let us establish a new kingdom for ourselves here. Arsha had decided to make the best of this situation and build a cozy palace in one corner of the dungeon. The main ingredient of such a hive was her mana, and the rest could easily be gathered from the region around her. Soon, she was watching a hive slowly start to come together. It seemed, however, that she'd grown too accustomed to human life. Her bedroom was turning out to be very cozy, almost like a luxurious princess's chamber, not something one would expect from a beehive. Hee. I like this very much. Put a bed here. Queen size, please. And the tea table and sofas over here. The bees were buzzing and working diligently to meet Arsha's requirements. She couldn't hide her satisfaction, but something occurred to her. Perhaps living like this wouldn't be so bad. Huh? What am I thinking? She quickly put aside the thought, realizing that it was not right for a queen bee to think this way. But in her heart of hearts, she knew that a queen bee's life was one of living in safety while the worker bees handled all the dangerous and bothersome tasks. Feeling grateful to Suho for giving her such a nice place to live, Arsha transferred her will to the worker bees flying throughout the country. She relayed the command that Suho had given her. My worker bees. Find Huang Dongsu quickly. Indeed, Suho hadn't just left the job to the White Tiger Guild, he'd also told Arsha to use her bees to locate Dongsu. The worker bees outside the dungeon began to fly at an even faster rate as they spread out through the country. While Arsha was building herself a hive, Suho finished his daily quest and walked out of the pyramid. Excellent work, Baru said, coming over. Behind him were Suho's shadow soldiers. Suho looked over the soldiers. There were a total of 5 that he'd saved, with the exception of Baru. There was the Shadow Lancer, Kay, the Shadow Minotaurs, Mino and Tao, the Shadow Assassin, Kira, and Harmakin, the Shadow Sorcerer. The strongest among them was Harmakin, who was at the Elite Knight grade. From fighting Harmakin himself, Suho knew that he was capable of skilled sorcery. In order to use him appropriately, Suho needed to have a good idea of what he was fully capable of. Harmakin, tell me about your abilities, he ordered. Yes, Master. Harmakin explained his powers, which could be divided into 3 kinds of abilities: phantom manipulation spells, curses or debuffs, and instance dungeon activation. My spells for controlling phantoms can only be used when the souls of the dead are nearby, he explained. So your sorcery is limited by the environment? Yes. Suho recalled the way Harmakin had used the spirits of the dead in Yami village to attack them. He had used human souls back then, but it seemed that the spirits of magic beasts could be used to the same effect. But phantom manipulation overlaps with shadow extraction, Suho mused. Strictly speaking, the extraction power was far more advanced than phantom manipulation. Then I'll just recruit strong magic beasts as shadow soldiers from now on, while I use souls of mundane monsters as fuel for phantom manipulation, Suho said. I will keep that in mind. As for the curses I use, oh, we'll find out through demonstration. Harmakin, made nervous by Suho's grin, looked around him carefully. The other shadow soldiers had surrounded him. And Master? All of you, attack. The shadow soldiers pounced instantly. Gee, good God. Taken aback, Harmakin quickly began to pour out the curses. System messages popped up in front of Suho. Harmakin used the skill Amplify Damage. Harmakin used the skill Exploitation. Harmakin used the skill Thorns of Pain. That's it. Suho nodded, seeing how the curses that he had faced himself worked once more. Amplify Damage is a debuff. Exploitation absorbs health, and Thorns of Pain reflects damage. They were quite interesting skills, just as he'd thought. In video game terms, Harmakin was basically a necromancer specializing in debuffs. Just as such a character would not be very effective in a game without any party members, the same was true for Harmakin. Even now, there were no spirits to aid him after he used the debuffs. Aya! Harmakin yelled. He wasn't able to even attack properly as he was beaten up by the other soldiers. It was rather pitiful to watch. He was of Elite Knight grade, after all. Thorns of Pain, however, really shone in this situation. All the pain and damage Harmakin receives is shared with the attackers. Kira slammed into Harmakin, but his body was sent flying with an explosion. Harmakin felt pain as well, but Kira, who had a weaker defense, was defeated as a result. Suho grinned. This makes you more of a tanker than a necromancer, doesn't it? But what if I do this? He changed up the way the battle proceeded. Harmakin, can you cast Thorns of Pain on the other soldiers as well? Why yes. Of course. Harmakin answered the question even as he was being beaten up. Then do it. Harmakin used the skill Thorns of Pain. The curses surrounded the other soldiers' bodies, and this time Suho had them attack each other. An indiscriminate battle commenced. They lashed out at each other without hesitation, apparently having built up quite some resentment toward each other. Their own bodies, however, suffered from the same attacks that they gave. They fought like berserkers, not stopping despite the damage they were also doing to themselves. Those cockroaches. Arsha witnessed this gruesome battle from afar and flew off to continue overseeing work on the hive. In the meantime, Suho's mana was drained out quickly as the damaged soldiers' bodies quickly recovered. His eyes gleamed. Not bad. Thorns of Pain was very synergistic with the shadow soldiers. They could recover from any damage they took, provided that Suho had the mana to support them. From now on, it looks like I'm going to have to invest in the intelligence stat, too. As a start, Suho decided to invest all the rewards of the daily quest in intelligence. Chapter 159. Now, finally. It was time to see Harmakin's third type of ability. Explain the instance dungeon ability to me, Suho ordered. That was the ability Harmbakken had used to turn the entirety of Yami village into something akin to a dungeon. He had learned this ability after chancing upon an artifact left behind by Candiaru and studying it repeatedly. That was why he liked to call himself a pupil of Candiaru. At Suho's question, Harmakin gathered up his body, which was ragged and scruffy after the soldiers' attacks. Yes, master. This spell twists a dimension to create a mirror world. What's a mirror world? It's a copy, if you will. Similar to the surroundings it was based on, but it's virtual and completely separate. Speaking of which, Harmakin looked around, gaping as if he'd suddenly come to some major realization. This was none other than the world of slumber, the shadow dungeon that lay beyond Suho's own shadow. This ruined city in the black and white world was, in a way, similar to an instance dungeon. It was like Suho's Earth, but also completely different. Harmakin kneeled before Suho, taking his words back. Ah. Forgive me, master. I have chosen the wrong analogy. Not a mirror image, a world beyond the shadow. He had realized where Candiaru had taken inspiration for the instance dungeon technique and shivered. I had the sequence wrong from the start. Candiaru must have developed instance dungeons as a copy of this shadow world. The purpose must have been leveling up, Suho said, nodding. To allow my father to level up. Yes. That seems to be the case. Until now, Harmakin had mistakenly believed that the goal of an instance dungeon was to create a world of one's own. He could reign supreme in such a mirror world. As it turned out, however, he was no king, he was just a boss monster, simply a device meant to give a vast amount of experience points to a player who had come to clear the instance dungeon. I noticed this earlier, but the same is true of that pyramid as well. Harmakin pointed to Amit's pyramid. That pyramid was also full of traces of the repeated experiments Candiaru performed in order to grow the Monarch of Shadow's vessel. Of course, Suho said, nodding. The training ground for the Iron Body technique, as well as the instance dungeons, had been created after endless rounds of research. The final product was the leveling system that his father had used. Ironically enough, the incomplete traces of Candiaru's efforts to complete this system were slowly being drawn to Suho. Master, the instance dungeon that I have discovered on my own attracts evil souls around it. Evil souls? Like villains? Suho asked. Yes. A person can lie, but they cannot disguise their soul. I can guarantee that nothing can beat my sorcery when it comes to the detection of evil souls. Harmakin, who had a fondness for evil spirits, smiled confidently, his teeth showing. That means you can use my instance dungeon to draw in villains for easy hunting. Very nice. I thought you were nothing but evil, but it seems you have your uses. Baru said, bursting into view and nodding in satisfaction. He gave a smile that was even more wicked than Harmakin's and pressed Suho. Young monarch. This is excellent. I've been frustrated by the slow leveling speed until now, but we can finally go at a proper pace. From now on, we can kill everything on sight, villains and evil spirits alike, and grow stronger. Arsha, Suho said, looking up as Baru droned on. A swarm of bees overhead gathered into the size of a small doll. Yes, Suho. Did you need me? Arsha asked. What about the task I gave you? I've scattered my bees about, but they've found nothing so far. I did locate a few villains, thinking they might have something to do with Huang Dong-su, but eek. Keek. Arsha screamed as Baru suddenly lunged at her with a screech. He snatched the copy's body out of the air and raised it up like a trophy. He showered her with compliments. I am proud of you, truly. What a useful honeybee you are. Young monarch, I believe your soldiers have finally started to learn to work together. Let us go and level up immediately. But why? Baru seemed deeply confused by Suho's reaction. Aren't you going to level up? I am, yes. But our goal was to hunt villains, and we already did that. It's more efficient to just enter a dungeon if all I want is to level up. Suho was right. Just like with all hunters, it had become inefficient for him to work as a bounty hunter. However, that didn't mean that he had to ignore villains who had already been found. He grinned and continued, I get the experience points even if the shadow soldiers kill them, right? Yes. Of course, yes. Baru cried. Then we'll split up into teams. I'll hunt in the dungeon. As for the villains. Suho glanced over the shadow soldiers one by one. They tensed, ready for his command. Quebec. Yes, master. Kay, the lancer, jumped forward and kneeled at Suho's feet. I assign the villains to you. Take Harmakin and Kira and clear them out. You can do that, right? That's. Of course, master. I will deal with them perfectly. I will also get every bit of information out of them before I kill them so we can locate Huang Dong-su. Kay quivered with extreme gratification. He was only a night-grade shadow soldier, but he had been told to use Harmakin as a subordinate. He looked extremely proud of himself as he looked down at Harmakin, the rookie who was stronger than he was. He. Did you hear that? I am Kay, Master's first knight. I don't believe it. Harmakin felt incredibly humiliated at the blatantly gloating stare. As Kay and Harmakin were seized by different emotions, Kira simply stood by and smiled quietly to himself. More killing. Immediately after this, amid the public still buzzing about the Jisan prison incident, a dark cloud was looming over the villains who had been hiding from the association throughout the country. So, the area around the capital is dangerous after all, eh? Exactly. All hunters are bound to move to Seoul once they make enough money. The headquarters of the Hunters Association is in Gangnam, too. For us villains, it's safest to travel across the countryside like we're doing now. Somewhere in a remote region far from Seoul, some villains were relaxing and chatting at one of the food stalls in the middle of a market that catered to travelers. Well. The weather certainly seems pleasant today. One villain brought over an apple from a nearby stall and took a big bite, staring lazily up at the sky. The sun was warm, and the breeze pleasantly tickled their faces. This was bliss. Of course, all would have been perfect if it hadn't been for the stench of blood that the breeze carried. The market was covered with blood and gruesome corpses. This place had been peaceful enough this morning, but a group of villains had turned up and transformed it into a hellscape. The perpetrators themselves, however, were sitting serenely and engaging in chit-chat. Gah! You, demons! Huh? I thought they were all dead. You're a survivor, aren't you? The villain grinned as he noticed a man crawling along the ground, struggling to breathe. Squelch. There we go. Now you can rest. Having killed the man off, the villain gave a refreshed smile and took another bite of his apple. I'm telling you, they're idiots for being caught at all. All you gotta do is kill the witnesses, and nobody can identify. The villain suddenly jumped to his feet, looking around. He'd felt a chill. Something had changed, the breeze was gone, and there was something odd about the sunlight. What the hell? Why the sudden fuss? The villain's companions turned to him, puzzled. At least on the outside, nothing had changed. The smell of blood was everywhere, as were the bodies. Everybody in the group that'd been working together for months now was still here. And yet, something was different. FF*CK. What the hell is that? The apple-munching villain shouted. What? What's the matter with you, man? Another villain, who hadn't noticed anything, seemed unable to understand this reaction. Then, as he sat there defenseless, his head slid right off his shoulders. It rolled across the ground. The F*CK? Oh God. The villains, finally alerted that something was wrong, stood up at once and began to watch their surroundings. A voice seemed to whisper in their ears. 1. WHWH, who's there? One of the villains spun around, shocked, but his head fell off. 2. That's 2 now, came the breezy whisper again, laughing in satisfaction. What the hell? Everyone watch out. It's an assassin-type hunter. Use a detection skill. Ah. What the F*CK are those? The villains were aghast. They had spotted spirits rising from the bodies of those they'd killed, like so many dark ripples. He. There are a lot of souls here who'd like a word with you. It was phantom manipulation. A nasty laugh from Harmonican echoed around them as countless spirits gripped the villains' ankles and wrapped around their necks, choking them. G-ghosts? How in the hell whatever? We need to get out of here right. Not so fast. K appeared out of nowhere, shoving his spear into the thigh of the villain who'd turned to escape. He grabbed the terrified man's hair and raised him up to eye level. I like talkative types. Eek. The blood drained from the villain's face as he took in K's narrowed eyes and malicious smile. K had the fearsome gaze of Lee Min-sung, the man who was once the vice guild master of the Fiend Guild and also an A-rank villain. He grinned and said, "Now, tell me everything you know." Absolutely everything. The moment you stop talking, I will pull your tongue out. Harmonican was not about to lose. He gripped the soul of a dead villain in his evil hand. Hee. Night grades. TSK. You could always kill them before asking questions. K clenched his teeth. At that moment, Suho got a notification. Level up. Huh? Already? He had leveled up out of the blue while he was going through the documents required to found a guild with Yujinho's secretarial staff. He scratched his head, confused. How many of these villains are they killing, exactly? Whether it was intended or otherwise, South Korea was becoming a very crime-free country indeed. Chapter 160. There was a thud as a heavy pile of documents hit the desk. Now, these are all documents that you'll need in order to establish a guild, Jinho said. There's quite a few. Suho smiled incredulously as he stared at the huge pile of paper in front of him. Jinho grinned, perhaps having anticipated this reaction. He picked up the topmost packet. Of course, there are a lot. The guild that you're establishing will basically be a major one right from the get-go. Because of the Scavenger Guild? Yes. The Scavenger Guild has already started selling Echo Forest spring water in earnest, and half of their profits will be listed as that of your guild. Of course, there is a lot of documentation. Suho nodded. The Echo Forest spring water. The effectiveness of the antidotal potion that he'd acquired from the ice elves in the Glacier Dungeon had been proven by various tests performed by the Scavenger Guild. Suho knew the effects, of course, after having seen the item information. But in order to sell the stuff to other hunters for money, such verification processes were necessary, if slightly cumbersome. After the Scavenger Guild had confirmed the potion's value, they had immediately launched their potion-selling business. The world was already responding enthusiastically to this, though it was actually a natural outcome. A hunter with anti-poison skills was required when hunting magic beasts that used poison. Not everyone had such a hunter as a companion, however. In such situations, it was a necessary hassle to battle with a gas mask on. The only other option was to visit an association healer to have the poison removed from their system afterward. But with the new antidote, this system that had ruled until now would be replaced. Suho's contract with the Scavenger Guild would net him half of all the profits gained from the sales of Echo Forest spring water. As a rule, however, such astronomical contracts were only supposed to be established between guilds, not individuals. In other words, the moment your guild comes into existence, it will be a close affiliate of a supermassive guild in the States. We at Agensoft must maintain that relationship, serving as the mediator and overseeing the process, which means a three-way contract is also required. Right. So where do I start signing? Suho didn't pay much attention to the lawyer's explanation, since he knew all the particulars already. He picked up his pen. Thanks to his uncle, all the complicated contracts and paperwork had been taken care of. All he needed to do now was sign all of these documents himself, and his guild would officially exist. Jinho was eagerly watching his nephew sign the documents, for he was about to ask him a crucial question. More importantly, the most important part of becoming a guildmaster has yet to be done. And what would that be? Suho asked, growing grave. His uncle was the closest companion of his father and retained all of the memories of their past life. What could such a person regard as the most important? Did you decide on a guild name? Jinho asked. Oh. That's what you meant to ask. A little disappointed, Suho shrugged. He had been so busy lately that he hadn't considered the matter once. But in any case, if this entire pile were to be dealt with, he would have to write down the guild's name at the very top of each page. How about the soloing guild? Wait. Suho was puzzled. His uncle seemed aghast, his expression very convoluted. Jinho wasn't sure whether to laugh or cry. My goodness. He really is Jinwoo's son, he thought. He was reminded of a nostalgic memory. Jinwoo had also tried to name a guild in a similar, offhand manner before. What? Does it sound weird? Suho asked. Why, do you want to choose that name? No special reason. I just like to do things alone. And I have no intention of bringing anyone into the guild, either. You're right, but you don't actually fight alone, technically speaking. You have your shadow soldiers. And that name is completely corny. Your guild will become more and more famous down the line, and more people will hear about it. Jinho did seem to have a point. His persuasive argument was as logical as it was desperate, and Suho nodded. Perhaps he would operate this guild for the rest of his life. It was only right to name it in a way that could reflect who he was. That's why I chose that name, though. If it's not good enough, then I guess it can't be helped. Something that reflects who I am. After some thought, Suho asked again, how about the Woojin Guild, then? Woojin? Jinho repeated the word and his eyes widened. Your father's name in a different order? Yes, but it has another meaning as well. What is that? The Chinese character for Wu means outer space, and Jin means to go forward. Suho recalled his goal, what he had to do in the future and what he wanted to accomplish. The guild would grow with him toward that goal, and he wanted to name it likewise. With the two characters combined, it means venture out into space. His uncle fell silent at this. I am going to go there no matter what, Suho continued. That's where my father is. And so, the Woojin Guild came into being. After establishing his guild, Suho got to work in earnest, clearing dungeons. Now that he was a guild master, he realized that his new position changed a lot of things. Surprisingly, the fact that he was only a C-rank hunter didn't really matter. Such things were only important when recruiting guild members. When selecting dungeons, all that was necessary was funds, and nothing else, and as it happened, Suho was now rich. You have 1,000,000,001 to start with. Please use that money to choose the dungeons with the highest rank. Oh, okay. I mean, yes, Guild Master. Dog-Yoon, who'd come out of the Shadow Dungeon for the first time in a very long while, was having trouble processing the fact that Suho was now rich. But it was only making money that was the hard part, not spending it. And next month, the Scavenger Guild will be sending us far more than we received this month. Please take that into account and make some reservations in advance as well. Yes, sir. Do-gyun replied with gusto. Suho noticed that Do-gyun's movements were different from before. He's fast. That change became even more apparent when he was taken along to a dungeon. Oh, gosh. Why am I here, anyway? Do-gyun's role was that of a porter, running from magic beast body to magic beast body killed by Suho and his shadow soldiers and collecting the mana stones. Such a task could actually be handled after the dungeon was completely cleared. Do-gyun didn't have to be the one to do it at all. There were the shadow soldiers to handle it as well. Suho had brought him for a reason, however. Wow. He's so nimble. Suho was amazed. Amit had forced Do-gyun to do nothing but run. As a result, his lower body had been trained to maximum efficiency, and he was running with ease from the intermediate magic beasts lunging at him. His mana is still E rank, but his strength has spiked. I think he could even deal with D rank magic beasts or above by himself. Just because Do-gyun could run faster didn't mean his attack power had improved, of course. But what would happen if he was given a good weapon to fight with? A bow, for instance, Suho thought. Hunter bows always used mana arrows, so no matter how good a bow was, in an E-rank hunter's hands its attack power would be abysmal. Would he even be able to shoot a single proper arrow? But what if it doesn't use mana arrows? Suho wondered and handed Do-gyun a bow. Take this. Huh? I mean, yes, Guildmaster. Do-gyun took the bow and looked puzzled. What do I do with this? I don't have enough mana to fire. I know. Just try and pull the bowstring back. Do-gyun didn't understand, but he did as he was told. As he drew the bowstring back, Suho commanded, Mino, shape transformation. Lim Do-gyun gaped in shock. The shadow minotaur who'd been battling alongside Suho suddenly rushed over to him and turned into a single black arrow. Mino, level 5 shape transformation arrow. Why yikes? Do-gyun yelped as Mino bellowed. What is this? This is kind of scary. His hands trembled at the sight of the dark, rippling, and rather ominous arrow notched in the bow. He turned to look at Suho. Suho. I mean, Guildmaster? What happens if I shoot? What do you think? The arrow will fly, of course. Why yes. Now, fire. Suho pressed Do-gyun, and he shut his eyes, pointing the arrow at the scary-looking magic beasts in the distance. The moment he let go, a dark streak blasted a huge hole in a magic beast, which produced a bellowing sound. Eek. The look on Do-gyun's face was a sight to behold. But how? How do you think? Suho said, grinning. You know what this means? It means you are now a proud combatant of the Wu-jing Guild. Guildmaster. Do-gyun's eyes seemed to become subdued. He was an E-rank hunter, the weakest of all hunters, someone who was fit only to pick up items. That was who he was. I am weak, he reminded himself. In fact, he had always been that way. And that is why I've always been running. He ran from the frightening magic beasts, as well as from his mother, who had tried to kill him after she had been transformed into a mist burn. I also ran from my father, who had to kill her. Do-gyun still dreamed of that day when he fell asleep. In the dream, his father was always killing the magic beast that had been his mother without any qualms, while Do-gyun would watch. Ah. Do-gyun. In the dream, would then run from his father, overcome with terror. And he always ran, without end, until that dream came to an end. His goal had been to escape his father. Perhaps that's when all of this began. My entire life has been about running away. Do-gyun had learned a running skill after awakening, but perhaps that had been the natural result of a natural reason. It's because I am weak. Even as a hunter, Do-gyun was only E rank. He was nowhere as strong as his S rank father, even now. Do-gyun stared down at his hands, which had just killed an extremely powerful magic beast. They were starting to shake from the excitement. He wasn't about to let himself be fooled. This power was not his own, but just a temporary capacity that Suho had lent him. Still, it seemed that this one experience was enough to give him a newfound courage. "Suho," Dogyun said, turning with a grave look in his eye. He readied himself to spill an important secret that he had hidden thus far. "My father is actually Lim Taijiu, the guild master of the Fiend Guild?" "I know." "Lim Tai what?" How did you?" Suho seemed puzzled at Dogyun's reaction. "How else? You two look way too alike. If I failed to see the resemblance, I probably don't deserve to be a fine arts graduate of Hanguk University. In any case, if you're finally telling me that, it seems you've worked up some courage." "What?" Suho put a hand on the confused Dogyun's shoulder, giving him an expectant smile. His eyes glittered. "Now, then. Can you contact your father for me?" What? Contact him? He keeps on asking me to return the weapon he lent me." Suho chuckled. "Huh. Lim Taijiu had lent Suho an A-rank weapon before he entered the glacier dungeon. However, the replica of the Fiend's Bow was now gone. Zerka, the ice elf who had gone with his mother, had taken it. Even if Suho had become rich overnight, all he had was 1,000,000,001, and no matter how well the Echo Forest spring water sold, it had only been a few days since sales had begun. He didn't yet have the money to pay for that expensive A-rank bow. "So make up with your father already," Suho said. "Could you also ask him to give me some high-ranked dungeons, if possible?" Dogyun stared at Suho, and as he was met with a cheerful grin, the emotion drained out of his face rather quickly. "Cha-cha." Elsewhere, Sirka was pointing her replica bow toward the sky, calling out urgently to Cha Hain. Hain was staring forward with a heavy look in her eyes. "Don't tell me," she murmured. Beyond the gray snow, she had noticed a vast shadow,